So the panel settings, I may just make this its own section, but panel, so you can modify the actual panel down here, and you can see when I clicked into that, it actually turned this kind of like a red color at the bottom, and that's just trying to show you like, hey, you can, you can now modify the panel, and this is what you're going to be, working around is this panel setting, which Windows users will just know this is a taskbar area. It's the same thing. It's this bar at the bottom with all your icons and your application launchers and all these other system icons over here, things like that. You can also get to this just by, I'll just go back really quick to show you. You can just right click on the panel itself, and then you at the very top here it says panel settings, and you can just click that, and it will also pull up the same set of settings as in the system settings here. So things you can do just to modify the way your panel functions and how it looks. You can change the panel visibility, the auto hide. So it says always show panel. That's the default behavior. Auto hide panel makes it disappear like it just did unless you put your mouse cursor down at the bottom of the screen, and then it will pop back up. So it's nice when you want it to be out of the way for certain things, but you can still access it when you need to just by moving the mouse down there at the bottom of the screen. And then intelligently hide panel, I'm not too sure what the difference is there, but maybe, yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is, like how it decides when it's intelligent to hide the panel or not, but but the default behavior is always show it. And but if you do choose to hide it, you can show the amount of time that it takes to appear, the show delay and hide delay. So if you wanted to have it, go a little bit slower before it shows up for a couple seconds or whatever, you can modify that here. Otherwise, if it's on always show, it doesn't have those settings because it's just going to show up all the time. So here you can change a little bit more customization as far as the size of it and everything. This is what way back in one of the earlier videos I mentioned, not so much like changing the panel. It was when I was talking about the panel layout to change between the more modern style with the window combinations and combining into a single icon and all that. And I mentioned that it's not so much about the size of the panel difference that matters to me, because, and this is why, it's because you can customize how small or large the panel is directly here in the settings. So 27 is the number by default for me here, but you can click that and either drag it to smaller or larger, and it goes up incrementally. And you can see as I'm doing that, I'll just make it even larger here. So I've moved it up to 40 now, and you can see it's considerably larger size than what it started out as. So if you like a smaller a smaller panel, like, yeah, I want it compact and nice and down there, and I don't need to worry about it too much, then you can make it even smaller than that if you want. And you can see the icons try to adjust their size a little bit dynamically to fit the size of the panel. I happen to like a slightly larger panel just to go along with my slightly larger fonts and everything that I like to do. I think it looks a little better that way personally, just to sort of mesh a little bit more clearly with the larger size things that I do. So I'll just do, for now, I'll just set it to the 40 there, and you can see over here on the right side, some of the icons are a little bit like smaller now. They don't fit the panel perfectly, but we can adjust that here in just a moment. I'll show you how. That'll be in this panel appearance section here. So the panel is basically divided into 3 chunks: the left zone, the center zone, and the right zone. So the left zone is pretty much these over here with the icons and the mint menu and all that. The center zone is this middle area here, the the taskbar, or well, taskbar equivalent, I guess you would say, but the panel where you can see the individual windows and things like that, applications that you have open. And then the right zone is like from here over to where you've got all the system icons and things like that, the date and time and the volume settings and all that stuff. So what you can do is you can modify them individually, which is good because, as you can see, the ones on the left side here, their icons kind of adjusted automatically in a dynamic way, so it's still fitting pretty well with the new size of the panel. But on the right side, that's not necessarily the case. It didn't really adjust that well. So so the left zone, by default, the font size says allow theme to determine the font size. So that lets the theme settings that you chose override everything. But if you don't want it to do that, you can manually specify the font size here. And this will override whatever you have set in the theme settings for the panel only. So so you can do, like maybe I want it to be 14, and then you can see it changed on the left side here. It changed these font sizes to be quite a bit bigger than they were before. But I'm going to go ahead and set that back to allow the theme to determine the size, because that's an okay size for me right there. But if you want to, manually specify, you can. That's not an issue. Colored icon size, it says scale to panel size optimally. So that's what's going on over here with these. It's and there's some other options. It says scale to panel size exactly. So if I choose that, you can see it got a little bit larger to like perfectly fit the height of the panel. But as a result, things got pushed over a little bit further. That's actually how I like the looks of it personally, but you can change it back to optimally if you want them to be a little bit smaller and more compact, or you can manually specify a certain pixel in height. So you say, oh, I only want it to be 16 in height, and you can see how small that is for how large of the size of the panel that I have. But maybe you want your icons to be really small and you don't like having the big old large icons, or you just like them at a specific size, no matter what size your panel is, then you can specify that manually there. I'm going to go ahead and choose the exactly option because that works pretty well for me. And then symbolic icon size, this is talking about these ones here, except in this case it's on the left side, which there aren't any of those. So I could modify that value here, but it wouldn't really do anything that you can visually see any difference of. So I will leave that alone for now until we get to the other side here. In the center zone, same thing here. We've got the allow theme to determine the font size. I'm going to do the scale to panel size exactly so it's consistent with what I set in the left side. And then again, you can change the symbolic icon, but we don't have any of those set in the center zone here. So again, that won't do anything right the way I have it set up here that you can see. But on the right zone here, let's see, it says allow theme to determine font size. So you can see the font size is doing okay, but I might actually want to bump that up a little bit higher just so the date and time shows up a little easier. So let's see what 10 looks like. Okay, that's about where it is, because okay, yeah, that makes sense, because 10 was the font size that we chose normally. But what about 11? If I did that, it's a little bit bigger. Let's see if 12 gets too big. Yeah, that's a little too big, so we'll just set that to 11 specifically. I like that look. It gives it a little bit bigger size than the default 10-point size that we had from before. And now colored icon size, so in that case that would be this one here. It says scale to panel size optimally. I'm going to set it to exactly, and you can see it got even larger there. And that's just, again, to keep it consistent across all of these settings for all the different panels. I could leave it like that too, to panel size optimally, if I think no, that's a little too big and this is better. That's one way to do it. I think I'll just leave it like that just to show you that you can do it differently. And there are different effects. And now you can see on the right side it says symbolic icon size in pixels. So this one is, as you'll notice, considerably smaller than the 28 by default that shows up here for these two. So as I increase that, you can see these icons here will increase their size, because 16, as we see, is a little bit small for the larger height of a panel. So we can go ahead and just bump that up, and maybe we'll try 24. And as I do that, they become more visible, more easily legible, readable, discernible, whatever word you want to use. And I can even set it to the same 28 that the rest of them are using, and now they're pretty much the same size as any of these other icons here. So that makes them a little bit easier to interact with, and you don't have to accidentally misclick or struggle to see what you're looking at if it's too small, that sort of thing. And general panel options, so you can add additional panels, and then there's a panel edit mode you can access here. You can also access that by right clicking, and there's a panel edit mode that shows up. If I click on that, you can see it kind of changes colors here from the right side. this like sort of purple looking area. I guess it's sort of a violet color. It's harder to see with the red background part, but that's the right zone section. Here is all the stuff that's in there. It shows you a number of additional icons right now that weren't showing up before, and that's just other icons that can possibly appear depending on what's happening with your system, such as printers, for example, could show up. If you have a printer connected, notifications here in case you have a notification. Your on-screen keyboard settings are right here, so on and so forth. Like, these are all potential icons that can show up there, but most of them are hidden from view when they're not active. So but this is showing you like a distinct separation between the right zone right here. The left zone actually starts over here, it looks like, goes all the way. There's like a darker red color. It's a little harder to see, but it does include your open windows, so that was a little bit of a mistake on my part. I thought the center part included those, but it doesn't look like it. But the center part is actually this little, the center zone is this little tiny section in the middle. It's colored green. It's really hard to see. It's about yay wide right now because there's nothing in it. But you can move icons there if you'd like. So if you wanted certain ones of these here, you could adjust them so they appear there. If you want your open windows and things like that to appear in the center instead of the left side, you can do that too. There's some things you can do with the editing mode. You can shift some stuff around, and there's quite a bit. I won't go into all the details because I honestly don't mess with it too much in the edit mode, so I don't really know. I'm not the best director to show you like, oh yeah, this does this and that does that, but it just allows you to modify them, customize it a little bit to the layout. Like maybe you would prefer the Linux Mint menu to be on the right side instead of the left side of the screen. Well, you can do that with the the editing mode and moving things around and stuff like that. So and then finally at the bottom here it says allow the pointer to pass through the edges of panels. So if you want to be able to do that, you can toggle that on. As you add a new panel, you can put them on other edges of the screen. You can also move this one as well. If you don't like it at the bottom of the screen, you can put it on the sides if you like, or the top of the screen. Linux Mint allows you to customize that pretty freely. Some versions of Linux, like I know Ubuntu for sure, they basically have their equivalent of the panel. It's on the left side these days, but once upon a time it was just up on the top, and all your stuff was up, oriented on the top of the screen instead of the bottom. And that's one way you can do that. You can also add a second panel. You could have one on the bottom, one on the top, and the bottom one could be, for example, just for your launchers and your icons and things like that, and you could have your open windows and those sorts of things appear more on the top one, or you could leave all your open windows at the bottom and maybe set all your system related icons and things like that up at the top, or there's ways you can customize it, basically to your heart's content. Whatever you see fit for your system, you can add panels, subtract them, whatever you want. You can make them larger, all kinds of different things. But that's just a general overview of panels and how you can modify them to suit your needs. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn even more, you can find my books at bookstoread.com/Jonathan. That's books, the number 2, read.com/JONATHAN.